Hi guys, welcome back to Planet Mithril. My name is Mithril and welcome back to my Buffed or Nerfed series of videos. The series where I take profiles from the previous edition of the Middle-earth strategy battle game that we all know and love and compare them to the brand new ones in the most recent edition and let you know if they've been buffed, nerfed, or if they have in fact stayed the same. Now we are continuing our journey into the forces of evil today, and I am focusing on some of the darkest and most vile servants of Sauron, the Ringwraiths. Ringwraiths are always a fun one to try and do. There's a lot of words here, a lot to get through, so let's get cracking. In the previous edition, you could buy a Ringwraith for between the cost of 55 to 110 points. They had a lot of flexibility when it came to their points values in regard to their might, will, and fate, and I will go through that in a minute when we get down to that rule. And they were also considered heroes of fortitude across any of the army lists they were involved with. Their stat line is as such. They were movement 6 with a fight value of 5 and a shoot value of 4+. Strength 4 with a defensive 8, so really high top tier defense. Only 1 attack, 1 wound, courage 6. And in regard to their might, will, and fate, you had a lot of flexibility in how you could tailor your Ringwraiths and how you could build them. They could have a maximum of 2 might points, a maximum of 14 will points, and a maximum of 2 fate points. Quite simply only being armed with heavy armor and a sword. And the heroic actions available to them are Heroic March and Heroic Channeling. In regard to extra equipment and mounts, they could buy Armoured Fell Beasts for 70 points. It's a hefty points cost for a mount, but one that I think a lot of people would do because it's probably worth the points cost. A normal Fell Beast came in at the cost of just 50 points, and of course they could buy a horse for the mere cost of 10 points. Of course, the Ringwraiths had an awful lot of special rules involved with them, the first being their Harbinger of Evil. This meant that any enemy model within 12 inches of a Ringwraith would suffer a -1 to any courage test they were required to take. It's worth noting this was not cumulative with any other kind of courage-altering powers or abilities, so you couldn't just stack negative effects to the opponent's courage and make them fail every courage test that we could take. Of course, you know the piercing shriek of a Ringwraith, it's terrifying, so of course the Ringwraith causes terror, which meant that if anyone wanted to charge a Ringwraith, they would have to take a courage test, and if they failed, they would just stop their move where they were, and they could not get into combat with the Wraith. Those cloaks had a multitude of scary things. One really cool, unique, and really theory rule that they had was the Will of Evil. A model with this rule, if they fought in the combat phase, they would lose a point of will once their fight was resolved, and any model that was reduced to 0 will as a result of this was considered killed and was banished. So they could use their will points obviously for spells, but you had to be really careful getting them in combat, because if they started getting into combat too much and too frequently, then you'd lose will points and then they would eventually just poof out of existence, which gave your opponent quite a lot of agency over how you would run your Ringwraiths. But thankfully in this edition they weren't really considered combat pieces outside of any of the named wraiths, as they only had 1 attack and they're 1 wound with defense 8 and potentially 0 fate. So they were more you'll sit back in the lines and fire off magical spells and just hope that they've got enough innate defenses to stop anything getting in combat with them. It's also important to note as well, they didn't care about invisible models and they would not lose a point of will if they were actually fighting an invisible model. So if you did have somebody with the ring on who was invisible, the Ringwraith wouldn't suffer any drawback from getting in combat with them. And this is where I think one of the biggest changes to the Ringwraiths is going to have been. In the previous edition, you could tailor your Ringwraith however you saw fit. Your might, will, and your fate could all be upgraded to a maximum of 2, 14, and 2 respectively, and this came at the cost of 5 points per piece of point of might, will, or fate you wanted to add on. So you gave you really good flexibility, and in a Mordor list or any list where you had a Ringwraith in, you could really kind of make sure you'd hit your points level and make use of every point you had, because you had the flexibility in the Wraith to tailor them how you wanted. You could have 1 might, you could have 13 will, you could have 2 fate, 2 might, you could kit them all out to max and have them cost the upper level price of 110, or you could just put a couple of extra will points on and have them as those machine gun spells in the back lines. They were really, really good flex pieces and really good at just being able to fill the gaps that you needed them to fill and kind of taking on the roles within the army that you didn't have yet filled, and you could tailor them to their specific roles, which is a really, really good way of running the race and making them feel kind of like a really unique unit at the time. They have the 1 of 9 special rule in the previous edition. This basically meant that you could only take a maximum of 9 Ringwraiths in one list. Silly, I know, but at the time we also had the Nazgul of Dol Guldur and all the named Ringwraiths, so it was just to stop you potentially taking more than 9 Ringwraiths. This is a combination of, you can have 9 in any combination from the named Ringwraiths, the Nazgul Dog, or just a normal race, but only a maximum of 9. You cannot go over by trying to intermix the different models. In regard to their spells, of course, they are magic users, so they have all the evil spells you could possibly want. We have Drain Courage, which was cast on a 2+, Transfix, which was cast on a 3+, Compel, which is cast on a 4+, everyone's favourite Ringwraith spell, Black Dart, which was cast on a 5+, Instill Fear, which is cast on a 5+, and Sap Will, which is also cast on a 5+. That was a lot to get through for the old ones, and I don't think it's much easier for the new ones, so let's get cracking with the new Ringwraiths in the new edition. They come in at, and I quote, variable points costs now. There is no flat rate between 55 and 110 points. They are variable, and I'll go through that in a minute when we get to that point in the stat lines. They are also still considered heroes of fortitude across the army list they are involved with. Their stat line is stayed pretty much the same. They're still movement 6 with a fight value of 5 and a shoot value of 4+, strength 4 and defense 8. Their attacks characteristic is flexible now, and again I'll go through that in a minute. They still maintain their only their 1 wound, which is a bit of a shame. I was kind of hoping they might be up to 2, just give them a little bit more stay power on the battlefield, because they've always been a little bit fragile to anything that can just wound on a 6. Their courage 4 still with an intelligence of 4+, and their might, will and fate are also variable as well. Their wargear now is obviously still just the heavy armor and the sword. They don't need anything else. In regard to heroic actions, they have actually seen a nerf here. They no longer have access to heroic march. They can only heroic channel, so you no longer have movement 9 Ringwraiths pelting across the board, which is a bit of a shame. So now this is where the biggest change comes into them. No longer are they that massively tailorable flex piece that you can kind of put the odd couple of might, will or fate on and up by 5 points for each one to really fit them in the slot you want. They now come in 3 set brackets, and when you buy a Ringwraith, you have to kind of assign them to one of these brackets and pay the points accordingly. And these brackets are: the first one comes in at 60 points, where the Ringwraith gains 1 attack, 0 might, 7 will, and 0 fate. This is kind of your basic Ringwraith, kind of like the 55 point level where they were in the previous edition. This is what they're kind of looking at here. The second bracket was 90 points, and the Ringwraith's attacks were increased to 2, which is a really nice little buff there, with 1 might, 10 will, and 1 fate. And the final bracket was the princely cost of 120 points, and kind of showing the Ringwraiths at the height of their power, the most evil and the most ferocious Ringwraiths they can be. Again, increasing their attacks to 2, their might points back up to 2, with 14 will and 2 fate. So that's kind of taking on the level of where they were at the top end of the previous edition, where you pay about 110 for a fully kitted out Wraith. They still have access to the Armoured Fell Beast at 70 points, a normal Fell Beast at 50, and as everyone now is apparently paying the massive horse tax, 20 points for a standard horse. Something a little bit different with the Wraiths now: every single one of them has access to be able to buy a Morgul Blade for 10 points, which basically means if you're wounding a model with a Morgul Blade and any of their fate saves are failed, then the model is instantly killed outright. So it's really nice that it's not just the Witch King that has access to this now. All the Wraiths are a little bit more dangerous in that regard, because you never know if they're going to be using that Morgul Blade, especially if you've got 2 attacks, a bit more chance of pushing that through. Their Harbinger of Evil rule stays the same, the 12-inch bubble of -1 courage, and of course they still cause terror, and they're still big shrieky boys in black cloaks. They are very terrifying to go up against. In addition to this, their Will of Evil also stays the same. Their spells have taken a bit of a hit as well. They no longer have access to the Sap Will special power. Their magic power in the new edition list is as such. They have Compel on a 3+ now, Transfix on a 3+, Drain Courage on a 4+, Black Dart still there and still being cast on the 5+, but now Instill Fear has been up to a cast value of 6. So that is quite a hard one to get off, and you're going to have to really want to put some will points behind that if you want that to go off. So there we go. That's an awful lot of words for the Ringwraiths. I struggle to enjoy these changes. I liked the old edition where you could just pay however many points you wanted and get a race that fit in your army perfectly. That flex point to me really, really appealed. I enjoy the change potentially giving the Ringwraiths 2 attacks. This is probably done in the wake of not now having named Ringwraiths, where some of them did have 2 attacks, some of them had 3 attacks. They were all very unique, and you had kind of some more combat-y wraiths in those as well. So that's probably done there to kind of mitigate the fact that we've now lost those, and you can now have wraiths that can kind of hold their own a little bit more in combat. but not quite so much as to be able to go toe-to-toe with any of the big hitters, particularly not having access to any kind of stats-boosting heroic actions. Now, you see, this is an odd one for me. I don't necessarily think they've been buffed. I don't really think they've stayed the same either, but I also don't think they've been super nerfed. So I think some of the stuff they've taken away from them, they have actually replaced with some good stuff. But because they've changed fairly significantly, I don't think it's right to say they stayed the same, but I do not think that what they've given them is enough to overwrite the lack of flexibility now when it comes to buying a Ringwraith. You've still got the points brackets to be able to kit out your Wraith how you want, but it no longer has that ability to really fit perfectly in that army list. In that 75 point gap, you can no longer just fill that and really make your army up to points level. Also with the magical powers as well, the casting value is getting worse, and losing access to Sap Will, I'm going to have to label, unfortunately, these guys with the title of now being nerfed in the new edition, comparatively. But there we go, that was quite a long one to do. We're going to tackle the Witch King at some point soon as well. Here's a slightly different kettle of fish. But I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell to make sure you never miss a video upload. Don't forget, you can head over and support us on our Patreon for as little as £1 a month and support my very unhealthy addiction to padded witch flesh. Thank you all so much for those who have so far. There is zero obligation, but I wouldn't be doing my job properly if I didn't mention it. But I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video and are enjoying this series so far. Take care, guys, and as always, happy hobbying. Bye, guys.